Welcome to the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. Keenan Lake is the author of the book My Daddy Taught Me That, published by Welcome, a social worker and activist. You can like this show's fan page at www.facebook.com/The Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. Feel free to post any comments, questions, or requests for his book on the fan page. Now let's go into the studio with your host, Mr. Keenan Lake, and co-host, Marcus Select.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Keenan Lake Show with Mr. Keenan Lake, author, publisher of My Daddy Taught Me That, and activist in his community. Keenan, how are you today?
Doing well, Coach. Doing well. I am so glad that the audience could join us for another episode of the Keenan Lake Show.
Yes, sir. And man, I tell you, the reviews and the stats on your show is looking really, really good. We want to thank all of the listeners that listen in from all over the Southeast region, but particularly those that are also listening to SIBN Radio worldwide. Keenan Lake is a fine author and activist. And Keenan, what do you have in store for everybody that's listening on today?
Well, today, Coach, in fact, this past Monday, it's been a big buzz around the state here in North Carolina, and it's talking about the welfare public assistance system.
Mm-hmm.
And this past Monday, North Carolina passed a bill where basically anybody receiving public assistance welfare in the state of North Carolina is now required to take a drug test in order for them to continue services.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is just something that's been really, I think this has been, it's not been really thought out properly. I think it's not fair. And, I think it's something that needs to be said about what's happening in our state, particularly, like I said, in the state of North Carolina. So with that said, Coach, let me give you a little bit of history.
Okay.
So basically, the welfare system started in 1930. In the 1930s, became more that they revamped it in the 1960s and made it more prevalent. But in 1996, the Republican Congress passed a reform law that was signed by Bill Clinton, which gave control of the welfare system back to the states.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to it going back to the states, it was pretty much ran and managed by the federal government. The U.S. Senate, they managed it and stuff like that. So, but in '96. Clinton passed a bill giving control of this system back to the states. Now, what's happened in the state of North Carolina is this. Anybody receiving primarily food assistance, food stamps, work first, right now, and I'm not sure if it's going to be everybody who gets it, and they haven't clarified it yet, meaning that everybody receiving it, is it when you come in and renew, or when you come in and do it, you're just going to have to take a mandatory drug test, or if they're going to randomly select people. However, the people that they do choose to do this will have to first of all pay for the drug test out of their own pocket, mm-hmm. which in return is going to be on an average of about $100 per person.
Wow.
Now, if you pass the drug test, they'll reimburse you that money through your assistance over a period of time. If you don't pass the drug test, what'll happen is you'll be removed from public assistance. You will no longer be able to receive public assistance for up to a year. But during that year, you'll have to go to drug treatment counseling that you have to pay for yourself. And once again, from that year that you're going through that, you'll be removed from public assistance, meaning that you no longer can get those assistance that assistance that you were receiving prior.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think about that, Coach?
I was just thinking to myself that the system is encouraging even more poverty. And let's get it. Let's just go back to the basics. That our listeners need to understand that if they're in the low income, even in the low middle income bracket, that there is a system in place in America that does not want them to get up on their feet. Even if they get up on their feet, they want them to realize in these new laws that are being proposed to various states, particularly in the Southeast region, they want the low income and middle income to realize, and some of them have bluntly said it, we are not interested in helping you anymore. We really didn't want to help you at the beginning, and we do not want to help you now. The poor's, the richest, the message of the rich is more blunt now than it has been the past 30 years. And your show, your book, and your work in the community has been trying to not only uplift the children, the youth, but to re-engage the parent into the reality that they have found to be somewhat painful as they face it. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know, right. Keenan, I just think that this spells trouble going forward because it insinuates that people that are on the lower totem pole for income earnings are more apt to use drugs. That's what it insinuates, don't you think?
Well, Coach, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's almost like, if you have less, you are less.
Right.
If you don't have, and let me, it's yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. But let's talk about. I want to talk about a couple of stereotypes, Coach, and a little bit of. I want to talk a little bit about some information that I actually put in my book. I actually spoke a little bit about this in my book. Again, the title of the book is "My Daddy Taught Me That." Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I talked about in the book, Coach, is specifically about public assistance and welfare. Now, from what I've been told from my years, growing up, what I heard was that the welfare system was created, and of course this is a stereotype, the welfare system was created to primarily hinder and hold back the African American race. Mm-hmm. So what they said was that, and see, this is how, and I'm gonna break this down as far as how this was supposedly created, which I think again is a stereotype. And the reason I say it's a stereotype is because we all know that there are more Caucasians on public assistance than African Americans, and this is throughout the United States.
Well,
however,
I think, but that I want you to stop right there, and I want you to elaborate on that, because I think until people read your book, they're not going to have the proper stats regarding stereotypes anyway, and right. that we have that picture that we're the ones that are mostly on welfare. Exactly,
and that's not true. Like I said, across the entire country, you look at the numbers. Of course, we're the minority in this country anyway, but you look at the numbers, and there are more Caucasians on public assistance welfare than there are African Americans. Now, mm-hmm. to go back to the stereotype, the saying was this: because, of course, there was this. We all know that the government is not fair towards, and has never been fair towards the African American race. And let me clarify this as well. Just because the government is not fair, and there are things that have been unjustly wronged in our community, in our race, does not mean that we give up or we don't try. You continue to fight the fight. You continue to make progress. You continue to do what you have to do, mm-hmm. and you don't let those barriers hold you back. Mm-hmm. Have things gotten better over the? Yeah, of course. We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. Now, this stereotype that I'm talking about is stated that, and the way I understood it was that the government wanted to break up the home, and mm-hmm. by removing, and with anything, and I talk about this in the book, by anything in the world, if you want to sabotage or break down, you cut off the head, almost like you cut off the head of a snake and the body died. Mm-hmm. So by breaking up the home and removing that male figure from the home, thus allowing the female and the children to remain in the home with the illusion of public assistance. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, you know what? Of course, you can receive public assistance, you can get Medicaid and food stamps, and you can get these services, but you can't have a male in the home, mm-hmm. you can't work, you can't do this, and you have to rely on the government to pretty much subsidize those needs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what that stereotype goes back and says, okay, and what that did, and what it says was, okay, you know what, as a single mama, I could do this. If I have 2 kids, I get even more public assistance. I get even more of this. Mm-hmm. So I don't need a man. I don't need this guy in the house to take care of these kids. And so thus, removing that male figure from the home with this, of course, false illusion. Now, that's a stereotype. Okay, I say this exact quote in my book. Whether the government was hell-bent on destroying the African-American race or not, we as a people got to get ourselves together. We got to make sure that, once again, we're doing what we have to do on our end and not using these so-called stereotypes or these other barriers to cause crutches for us. Because it's no excuse. We can do whatever we want to do in this country. Of course, we might have to go around and do it a little differently, but we cannot allow it to be a crutch for us.
Right.
What do you want to elaborate on that about that, Coach?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is that we as African Americans have been asleep at the wheel. And I think that what you resurrected in your book, My Daddy Taught Me That, is the wake-up call to the fact that, first of all, the father missing in the home is almost the key ingredient to the whole unit staying together. But second of all, that our great mothers out there who are really trying to hold it down need to be understanding of the fact that the disintegration of our community is partially caused by these new laws. And no longer do we have the luxury of being able to run a game in the street, in the hood, I call it hood theology, where we say, okay, I'm going to, so I don't have to deal with this. I'm going to get pregnant, or I'm going to have a kid, and I'm going to take care of it this way. Back in the old days, those few African Americans who did that, and those few who perpetrated that from one generation to another, they may have had other reasons that we can't discuss today because of time restraints. But I think what I hear you saying is that we've got to awaken to the fact, as you say in every show, we've got to awaken to the fact that there is an enemy. It may not be a person that we can put our finger on, but it's a systematic or systemic enemy that says we're going to make sure that if you get any help whatsoever, and in the sequester, by the way, you're not going to get much help. I mean, Head Start's going to be cut. I can go on and on with that list, but the sequester is only a preview of things to come. And that's what people got to understand. And this sequester doesn't end until September. So, if you're going to do Head Start, you got to be in line first. But what the parent has to understand is that all these other things that require the child to develop well come after the game has been run on both sides. Yep. From the educational standpoint, meaning starting out with Head Start to preschool, to money for schools in general, educational curriculum, and we could go on and on and on. And so I don't know. It's every time we have a show, Keenan, it encourages me on one light, but it saddens me on the other light, because so many of us, if we have any guilt at all, is because we have been asleep at the wheel, Keenan. I think that's why we do the show. We want people to wake up and understand that, if we can throw in a spiritual component, our Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Daddy, is teaching us now. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But are we listening?
Exactly. Exactly.
Hey, plug that book one more time for those who have not gotten a copy. Tell them where they can get it, so that they'll be able to have access to that information.
Okay, again, Coach, the book is My Daddy Taught Me That. This book is available. You can go to my website, mydaddytaughtmethat.com. Inbox me in my website, and inbox me with the information. I'll get you a book. The book is also available at Barnes & Nobles. You can call to order, and also Amazon.com.
All right, we're going to go to a small commercial break, and then we'll come back here in a few minutes and continue talking with Mr. Keenan Lake on the Keenan Lake Show. We trust that everybody is enjoying the show. Don't forget to tell a friend. Tell them where to follow you on Twitter while we're getting ready to go to commercial.
Follow me on Twitter at the KL Show.
All right, the KL Show on Twitter. And then the fan page again, Keenan.
The fan page again is the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio.
All right, we'll be right back after this.
We trust that you are enjoying the show. Stay right there. We'll be right back after these messages.
always been a part of me to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Whether on my block or around the world. My name is First Lieutenant King, and I move toward the sounds of those who are in need of help.
The few, the proud, the Marines.
Entry invalid.
Mode. Mode. 5 seconds.
Oh. The Windows Phone 8X by HTC on Verizon. It features easy-to-navigate live tiles that are simple to customize. Just pin what matters most right to your home screen. Exclusively with DataSense, a feature that makes the most of your plan. Only on Verizon.
Oh, hey, Mike. Where are you up to?
Just diagramming this accident with my State Farm Pocket Agent app. You can also get a quote and pay your premium with this thing.
I thought State Farm didn't have all those apps.
Where'd you hear that?
The internet.
And you believed it?
Yeah. They can't put anything on the internet that isn't true.
Where'd you hear that? The internet.
Oh, look. Here comes my date. I met him on the internet. He's a French model.
Bonjour.
State Farm. More mobile than ever. Get to a better state.
Aaron, I was able to save you hundreds.
Yeah, discount, double check, I know. I'm kind of over that move.
So are we.
What?
It's a little, soft.
No, it isn't.
It is.
Yeah, it is. They wanted something with a little,
Like what?
Do it with me. Ready? Discount, double check.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying.
Right?
Matthews.
What's up, dude?
He plays football professionally.
Hey, Rogers! Move! Matthews!
You could save big with a discount double check, only from State Farm.
You're listening to SIBN Radio on the Select USA TV iBroadcasting Network. You're listening to SIBN Radio.
Yes, sir, Mr. Keenan Lake, the Keenan Lake Show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for joining us right here on SIBN Radio. We have Keenan Lake in the house, host of the show, and today we're talking about unfair new welfare laws. You decide. Keenan, I think you need to recap again what's getting ready to come down the pipeline for families that are on the low end of the income total pole.
Well, basically what's happening, folks, in the state of North Carolina, they just passed a law this past Monday. The law states that all recipients of welfare public assistance services in the state of North Carolina will be required to take a mandatory drug test to continue services. So before I talk about how this is going to affect our children and our youth, Coach, I talked about one of the stereotypes. What I wanted to address right now is what the welfare system, the way I intake it, the way I understand it, the way I think it was intended to be, and the way I feel like it's not being used the way it was intended to be. So growing up, Coach, everybody's heard about food stamps, Medicaid, workforce assistance, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Now, I myself, I'm the host of the show. I don't mind telling anybody, I've had family members who received welfare back in the day. And the thing about it is this, Coach. This is what I understood welfare to be. This is what I understood the whole system to be set up to do. For families, it was created right in the Great Depression. Everyone knows that, right around that time. And it was created for families who were suffering financially, who could not pretty much survive, to have government assistance to be provided for a short period of time to get on their feet. Right? Mm-hmm, so. Mm-hmm. Going back to what I said previously, I've had family members who received public assistance. But the difference, I think, from then to now is this. The family members that I had who might have received public assistance, they did it for a period of time. Just what I said. They've done it for 4 or 5 months. They did it for 6 months here. Just until they can get on their feet, and then they either moved out and moved on, never to use that system again. It was used as a stepping tool to say, okay, you know what, I'm in a rough situation right now. I'm going to use this government assistance, and then I'm going to be on that's all I needed was just a jump start. Mm-hmm. And it seems like now in today's system, it's kind of reverted to where it's a standard and an ideal way of living.
Right.
You have generations who have grandmothers, daughters, children. It's the 3 generations of families who 4 generations of families who use the welfare system as a way of living. And, you know, to talk about the system, okay, we're talking about a system and how the system is flawed. Well, if the system is flawed and we know this, like, for example, we know they're feeding us garbage, but we haven't pushed the plate away. You see what I'm saying? It's like, okay, if you know you're getting fed garbage and you haven't pushed the plate away, well, what do you expect? So it's like we have to be, and I'm not talking about a specific race, okay? I'm talking about everybody, okay? Because once again, to throw this out there are more Caucasian people on public assistance welfare than there are African Americans. So I'm not specifically talking about any race. I'm talking about us all. We have to be able to say, you know what, the system is flawed, but as long as they can control and use us, and if we rely on this, then we have no choice but to accept what they give us.
Right.
And go ahead, Coach. I'm going to stop for a while and let you elaborate on that.
But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think what's important of what you said is that many have chosen this as a way of life, as their option. Let's use the word option for right now. But I want to also say to those that may be listening who have family members, cousins, aunties, uncles, brothers, sisters on the welfare system, let's not forget now that while we feel really bad about those who have used the welfare system as a way of life, the government has yet been a way of life for many Caucasians and beyond for many, many decades. Let's not forget that. Now, in the news media, it looks like the poor of all races are extremely negligent in being responsible and creating some momentum in their ability to create a greater income. But let's not forget, for the listener, to be fair, that we don't want you to be discouraged, because we know that upper income individuals who have access to corporations, to have access to organizations, even access to family farms and beyond, getting government subsidies for the upper income, has been a way of life as well. Banks. We just had a bank bailout. We just had a horrible slump in the economy the last couple of years. And so let me just also be fair to those who are listening who may have relatives or may be struggling with their income. Listen, we have been hoodwinked and fooled for a long time and thinking that we were the only wrong ones in the room. And I promise you, the banks have gotten away with pretty much capital murder, economic murder, if you will. Having embezzled the money or having invested the money in bogus investments without going into a lot of details, and yet being able to falsify the books and be able to have the money to get lawyers and be able to buy off people in various legislative watch groups, if you will, watch groups that may be connected to legislative houses across the country. So let's just say that greed. Let's say that greed has been a driver and a factor in the options category. And I think what you're saying, Keenan, is that while we're talking about the low income folks, we want them to be aware that this goes on across the board, but we are at greater risk. Exactly. We are at greater risk because our babies are the ones coming up into the repercussions of these choices. Exactly. And they will be sitting there wondering, why in the world can I get going here? They'll be wondering. Yep. And they'll have to say that my mom or my papa or my auntie, you know what I'm saying? And so, Keenan, we've got about 5 minutes. Go ahead on and give the last of this before we have to go to a small commercial break.
Okay. Well, this is the thing, and like I said, you're exactly right, Coach. And it's what I want our listeners to understand is that we have to, first of all, find a better way. Right. And start thinking about, okay, you know what? This may have been what I've seen my uncle do, or like you said, my grandmother do. And like I said, people have their various reasons. Let me make it clear, I am not knocking anybody who is receiving public assistance. If you need that help, by all means, I am telling you to get it. Mm-hmm. If you need it, you need to take advantage of those options and those services. They are out there to benefit and help you. However, what I am saying is that just because you do receive that doesn't mean that that's all you tried to do.
Right.
You try to take it to that next level to say, okay, you know what? I'm receiving these assistances and these services, but now it's time for me to strive to be even better.
Right.
Now, I want to talk about this law real quick, and this how this law is going to affect us. Okay. For those who are receiving benefits in North Carolina, how and this is what you said earlier in the show, Coach. It's like these politicians and lawmakers are absolutely pretty much to downright say mean. It's like, okay, you know what? And the way they look at it is this: okay, I'm giving you assistance. So in order for me to give you assistance, that means that when I tell you to take a drug test, you got to pass it. And it's like, first of all, that's bad on all parts because you're telling people that okay, you're not suspected of using drugs. We never caught you using drugs, but just because we give you this service, we want you to take a drug test anyway. But how does that? Let's just say the flip side. Okay, you know what? There is a single mom out there. Single mom's out there. She has 3 kids, and she's using some type of illegal substances, and she fails this drug test. Well, okay, slap her. That's not good. You shouldn't have done that. I'm not condoning anybody to use any kind of drugs, and she shouldn't have done it. However, what's going to happen to the kids? You're taking this service away, but what about the kids who are not using drugs and who need this service?
Well, you said that last week. I hate to interject, but I want to point all the viewers to the show on demand. The show before it was, does Walmart build prisons and the privatization of the prison system and how to fulfill the budgets therein to ensure that it is filled to the capacity so that they are able to make a profit. And then I think last week you tied it in also to the educational system, whereby there are laws and there are rules that study and circulate the results of the studies to determine who would be best eligible for a prison environment as they continue to maturate in life. And so I want to encourage the listeners to go back and listen to your shows on demand to understand that these shows are build up. You're not just coming out, you know what I'm saying, and just talking about something, right. Pulling a straw of a hat, but these things are all connected together. You know what I'm saying? And so they have to go on demand, maybe on your fan page, and listen to previous shows to get the full picture of what we're talking about today.
I agree. I think you're absolutely right, Coach. Once again, with what I do, in the community, I'm able to talk to people and see things coming down the pike and see how the government and the laws are changing and stuff like that, how the state is implementing stuff. So what I try to do and what I want to do is basically encourage all of my listeners, my parents primarily, because it's time that we start doing things. And I want you guys to be able to have that heads up, not only that heads up, but give you the motivation, the inspiration, and the courage to say, you know what, I may have been doing this, or this may have been my lifestyle, but this guy on this radio show is telling me that, it's time, it's right. Because what I want my folks to understand is this: we have to be able to set the example for our youth and our children. And it's like I said on the very last show, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. We can teach our children. We can say whatever we want to say to our children. We can try to teach our children whatever we want to teach them, but 90% of the time, and that's just a number that I'm throwing out, but it's probably more true than not, 90% of the time, our children are going to learn from what we do. What they see us do, they're going to do. And if we can say, okay, I can tell my son or my daughter this until I'm blue in the face. I could talk to them all day, but I need to lead by example.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I saw a couple you should bring some of those quotes from the Facebook page so that folks can be able to see them. Man, Keenan, stand by for a final word when we come back, okay? Stand by.
No problem, Coach.
We'll be right back.
The Select USA TV iBroadcasting Network, or SIBN, offers video and audio productions. Dial 678-830-3118 Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or call the office at 404-910-5019. Your video production services increases your visibility online. The Select USA TV iBroadcasting Network, producing business videos, location streaming videos, and on-location or virtual production videos. For more information, dial 678-830-3118 or 404-910-5019. SIBN, increasing your visibility online.
Well, Keenan Lake, the Keenan Lake Show, man, our time is gone. Keenan, man, give everybody some contact information as we wind things down, man. The time go by so fast.
It does, Coach. First of all, I want to thank all my listeners for joining in on the episode of the Keenan Lake Show. I so enjoyed talking to you folks. I so enjoyed having the show. Please continue to follow me as we're going to continue to have some great shows lined up. If you want to reach out and get in touch with me, you can contact me. My phone number is area code 828-582-2261. You can also contact me on Facebook. Again, the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio. My Twitter account, the KL Show. Follow me on Twitter. And also, you can get in touch with me and contact me on my website, mydaddytaughtmethat.com.
And whatever you do, you got to get a copy of the book, My Daddy Taught Me That by Keenan Lake. You can get that at mydaddytaughtmethat.com, or you can give him the phone number one more time in case they want a copy, want to order via phone. He would know it's available wherever books are sold. Give them the phone number one more time, Keenan.
The phone number again is 828-582-2261.
All right, that's a wrap for us today, man. Keenan, you guys stand by. And for all of our listeners, thank you so much. Don't forget to spread the word. The Keenan Lake Show is live and on demand on SIBN Radio. Stand by.
Thank you for joining us today for the Keenan Lake Show. We know you will be empowered as you consider the content shared by Mr. Keenan Lake, co-host Marcus Select, and our guests. For more information about Mr. Keenan Lake, please visit www.mydaddytaughtmethat, and feel free to email us at lake@mydaddytaughtmethat.com. Books can be ordered from Mr. Lake by calling 828-582-2261. Until next time, you've been listening to the Keenan Lake Show on SIBN Radio.
You're listening to SIBN Radio on the Select USA TV iBroadcasting Network. You're listening to SIBN Radio.